Oh my god, it's Untier. Jen, shut up! You ruined the intro. Ah.
God fucking damn. Come on.
That's it. Untier Talk is canceled. There's no Untier Talk in the year 2020. We'll see you all in 366 days. Because don't forget, this is a leap year.
Wait, Ninny is a shortened version of Nincompoop.
Yeah, Ninny means nincompoop, but it's more fun. Dude, it's like my favorite insult that we don't... Oh my god. This recording is off to a great start. Hey guys, we're doing Untier Talk. How about that, huh? I've got Hajad and Specs here.
Hi.
Good. That was a solid high. I rate it solid out of 10.
I like how Specs speeded it up a lot so that he didn't intrude with when I said hi, which I appreciate. Thank you, Specs.
Yeah, no worries. I got you.
Okay. Anyway, we're doing LTPL. We're doing circuit playoffs, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about some end of Gen 7, how we'd rank people, all that stuff, and it's been a little bit of a hot topic in the PU Discord. Yeah.
We don't have enough of that.
First of all, LTPL, I'm going to kind of pull up the side of the thread. 2 PU games didn't happen. They just went to dead games because this was last week. Some teams were eliminated. I just have the thread to try to remember who. We didn't do Kushalos versus Star. And we didn't do... I'm sure people are loving this image on screen right now. Kush versus Star. Oh, and Tasker versus Raichi. I could not find the replay for.
I don't have it either.
Interesting.
Let me see if I can find it. Actually, I'm sure recording this weird selection on my screen just for the replay, and then doing a bunch of other non-replay things on it looks really good. Yeah, just I've got nothing for Tasker versus Raichi. There's no post. Raichi was marked as winning, but I've got nothing. So we're not gonna do that game either, I guess.
Well, I mean, if nobody bothered to share the replay, I doubt it was going to be a good game. You know what I mean?
All right, fair enough. So the first 2 chronological games are the 2 that we're actually going to go over. So LTPL, the first thing we're going to hit is me versus Tlenet. There's not a lot to this game. Tlenet brought a little bit of a fun team with a Stunfisk, a Gravity Regice, a sub bulk up throw, just some odd stuff, and then I didn't have a bad matchup, so I won.
Yeah, I mean, we were out at this point, so I just literally told Tlenet, what are the most fire teams that we can possibly bring? And he said, I have this one team with Specs Ordino and Specs Orocorio Sensu.
Yeah, but I knew
make
that.
Sure that team gets used.
I knew that team, unfortunately.
And then there's this one Gravity team as well. So Tlenet ended up using that team. And then Alkion, I think, was the person who ended up using the...
yeah, Alkion did.
The Specs Sensu one. So...
Mm-hmm.
That's basically the prep. There was no prep. It was just using me.
Yeah, but unfortunately, this just ended up kind of free for me. This team can work if it's got a better matchup, but sub bulk up throw is not super dangerous when I have a fat Z move Masharna. Regice didn't really do anything. I'm not too annoyed by Stunfisk. It needs something, or failing that, he would have needed to play it better and make use of the fact that my Lantern had to spam Heal Bell, but he didn't really do anything, so that was the game. TJ versus Ham was weird, because TJ kind of got smacked, but not a lot happened. You know?
Yeah, it sort of felt like TJ sort of just lost momentum, and then he tried to almost make doubles, and then his doubles just went wrong. And then he lost even more momentum off the back of that. And then it was just a deep spiral of him trying to regain and then not regaining and then losing.
Yeah. Ham killed everything. I'm wait, what? How's everything dead?
I talked to TJ after the game, and he said he had to make a bunch of plays with Tort to not instantly lose to Ludicolo. But in doing that, he kind of just lost to everything else.
Yeah, and that's fair. This is not the most fun matchup.
Yeah, to be fair to him, that's I'd rather a player play out of his balls and lose 6-0 than play in the knowledge that Ludicolo is just gonna win and then lose 2-0 anyway, when it's a foregone conclusion. So yeah, I don't hate that out of TJ. Understanding there's a bad matchup and that's a big threat, but it just kind of sucks the matchup.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. I guess we can hit LST versus PTF. This was not this was not a terrible game. It was kind of interesting because LSD has like a wacky team with the double fat psychic, Drampa skunk, Rotom, and then the Mudsdale is the last. Like it's a weird looking team, whereas PTF has something a little more standard, but not like the craziest matchup. Like it has no psychic resist, and LSD kind of ended up winning close but pretty solidly. Like it was down to like the last Mons, but LSD always kind of felt like he had it.
Yeah, LST had the end game pretty much for the remaining turns, however long it lasted.
I actually ended up. I was the one who built this double psychic bullshit team. That
of course
LSD
you
used. Yeah, because I think it was in that post Teddy loss where was it False just 6-0 Teddy with the barrier Mashana, and I told False, wouldn't it be a great thing if we just brought barrier Mashana again, and then called Teddy's bluff on the dark resist again, and then he said, how do you want to do that then? I said we'd go with the lure barrier Mashana with the dazzling gleam, and then we'd use acid armor duosion as the the thing to clean it up from there. And then he was like, that's a great idea. We should make a team around it. And then we built a team around it. And then this was it. And then nobody ever used it because it looked so crazy and so wild that it was just like, even when I was playing with it, it felt crazy and wild when you were using it. So nobody ended up using it. I was never going to use it in like circuit playoffs. So like it was basically a free team. So when LSD asked me, yo, do you have any teams? And I was just like, yeah, I have this one team.
All right, that's an interesting origin story. I feel like PTF definitely could have made this work. Cost is not too bad here. Jellicent's obviously gonna be fun. I'm pretty sure it was like a taunt Jellicent, so it can beat the Psychics. But like things just didn't really come together for him. Not a ton super interesting. Moving on, Specs versus Alcyone. Specs.
God. I didn't bring Hazard Control, and Hazards beat me, pretty much.
SMH Specs. SMH.
Yep.
Why would you not bring Hazard Control versus me, or like my team? Surely you were thinking
the team was so cool, I couldn't help but use it, okay? Like, it almost worked.
I feel like this team definitely still could have worked and could have pulled it out. But there was more than just no hazards control. I think Golurt got a couple of like very wrong turns, and also
sort of. It was really awkward with the
let me try to
Audino, Sensu, and like Rotom there. Like,
yeah, it's hard
to click anything.
Yeah, it's banded Golurk, and like that's hard to get a good prediction because Shadow Punch, Earthquake, Hammer Arm, or they're all gonna be walled by something. Also, like we had Heal Bell Lantern, and it ended up like facing a subtoxic Rotom. That didn't really work out. So then Girder had to get chipped early. The Sensu is also really annoying because that's a really strong stop to a late game Leafeon WinCon. Like that just couldn't really happen because Sensu was there. Like this whole thing was just a lot of different unfortunate stuff where I feel like just Hazard, like I felt like this team was still mostly okay without Hazard Control, still probably doable, but a lot like this matchup was just not fun in my opinion.
Yeah, and the Specs Audino got me at the end. I actually won if it was standard Audino because I got the burn, so Knock wouldn't have killed me.
But surely you got from the spread that it wasn't a.
I don't even think I hit it before that. I don't think I hit it once.
Oh right.
Yeah, so I had to go off of it being, and I was Flame Charge just in case it was Scarf Sensu.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, because looking at preview, I thought it was.
Yeah. This was just really awkward. Like this slot has choked a number of games. I think this was really just unfortunate.
I've played like shit the whole tour. Let's not like. But this was one of the closer ones, so I wasn't horribly pissed over it.
Then the circuit playoffs games, none of these were super crazy because pretty much my prediction that Rexus and Hijad were going to be just like the better players, that kind of just happened. Rexus smacked Lockjaw pretty convincingly. Game one was actually like I can't even blame Lockjaw for this one. His team's interesting, but like I can't blame him because Rexus brought an Endeavor Agron that chipped the Girder a ton, and at that point, like the Caracosta just won, and Rexus ended up winning with Sensu, but basically like just the Endeavor Agron lure plus Caracosta would have won this game, and like the fact that there's also this whole other the rest of the screens team like didn't even matter, although it is a pretty cool screens team.
Yeah, I'd say Rex's team was like a really good way of playing screens in this meta, where it's actually a really fast-paced team if you think about it, and everything has the ability to put offensive pressure on. So that's a really cool. It's a really cool team, to be fair to him. But that being said, I I wasn't overly convinced at any point in this series if Lockjaw was capable of winning a game, and that's tough. Like when you go into a matchup and you think, shit, Rexus has already won this game. That's tough from like a watcher's perspective, but it's probably even worse if you're Lockjaw yourself. You just sort of feel like, damn, I don't really have a shot here.
Yeah,
So
I mean, game two, he definitely might have been able to. He reused this team that, like, I'm pretty sure it lost to both you and me in circuit in the seasonal winners finals and losers finals. So I was kind of surprised he brought it back. Definitely could have been able to do something, but he sacked his Lurantis very, very early on. Lurantis being massively important in this matchup as something that can like come in on Jellicent, the thing that annoys your type null. Generally, your best like breaker here. Letting it die in a really bad way, and at that point on, Rexus like pretty much just had this game kind of free.
Yeah,
it was.
he
Go on, Specs.
yeah. So he basically, I don't know, he basically just also sacked any Persian late game he had once it got toxic too, and he just insta lost to Jelson once that happened because he just forces the Persian out, and then Jelson never dies to anything on the team. Like I don't know. I
Yeah,
felt like he could have
I
maybe saw that like in the future.
yeah, I agree with both of what you guys just said. I think personally, what happened is that he panicked when he saw the thing set up, and then or the Leafeon set up, and then sacked the wrong Pokemon, or was like scared that it might like Z celebrate. I think potentially that might have been what's going on. Like he might have thought, oh, it's gonna SD and now it's gonna Z celebrate, and I'm like, well, the likelihood of it being SD and Z celebrate and being able to fly through your team is very unlikely. So
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I wasn't really a fan of how he played.
He had a
I was
decent
talking about
matchup.
it. Yeah, when I was thinking about it in the game, I was thinking like this really just looks like a ladder game where we're watching somebody who's like the top of the ladder is just playing somebody who's like in the middle or like towards the backer end of it, and then the like Lockjaw makes like a systematic misplay, and then the better player wins, and it really is like that simple in my opinion for this game.
Yeah, Rexus just really outclassed him, I think. Which
Mm-hmm. Disappointing.
he came far, and Rexus was better. What can you do?
Yeah.
Then there was also you versus Skipcan. This was not as strongly dominant, but at least game one, very much felt like you just flexing your muscles and going, "Come at me!" Like you even said, you brought your standard Kanga spikes because you didn't think Skipcan would be able to effectively counter team and beat it, and he didn't. This was just kind of a smackdown, really. Game one, game two was a lot closer, but game one was just Kanga spiking all over him.
Yeah, I didn't mean that in like an offensive way. Now that you say it to me, I kind of sound like a dick, but I didn't mean it in that way. I was just sort of like, if basically when I was looking through Skip Can's replays, there was nothing in his replays that suggested that he could beat that team with anything in his builder. So unless he was to build something crazy, I wasn't fearful of anything that he had to build, and also it was like a case of I had lost a few games in the past versus worse players because I'd overthought these types of games where it was like, you're the better player, the quote unquote better player, and then you're playing somebody who is probably going to try and counter team or try and get like away from you. sometimes it's just best to hold your like horses, I guess, and just try bring your standard stuff. And if Skip Can was to win that game, I wouldn't have had regrets because I would have at least from the game one like gauged what type of prep he was going after. Um, yeah, and also I'd been bringing that team a lot in like game twos and game threes. I brought that team in like game five, I think, versus you Megazord. So
Something
it's
like
like
that.
yeah, so I wasn't using that team frequently in game one, so maybe that also played into his decision. I don't know really, but yeah, that was my main like thought process behind it. I think game two was way more like stressful for me because I sort of figured that game one was going to be a bit free, but the game two is definitely I was already like mentally preparing for game three to be honest, like halfway through game two.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll actually play through a bit of this just because the very ending after the game happened, I pointed out I'm pretty sure Skip Can had like a basically not 100% guaranteed win because obviously like some bullshit. Like, I'm pretty sure some hacks could have happened, but like should have had a total win path at the end that he just missed. Um, which I get it's hard. Like you brought the Hail, which is a very pressuring team, and he doesn't have like a crazy. He has a doable matchup, but not like oh this Hail's gonna be free. Um, so like I get the feeling that this is really tough and maybe missing like the most optimal pattern. Um, but this definitely, yeah, I want to get to that. So do you have any thoughts about the game while it's playing? Either of you?
Um, well, I brought the basically I figured that because game one was such a complete smackdown that he'd revert to his like primal origins, I guess, where it was like sort of cheesy, hard offense. I was honestly expecting like screens or something because he hasn't brought screens yet, and that's pretty much like a huge cheese thing. So I was thinking he might have got some inspiration from Rexus and brought down some crazy like no fighting resistant screens. And even though I had things in my builder that I'd already prepped for skip cans, like I had a fighting spam team that I wanted to use versus him, but I was like, well, I don't need to like try and like take risks here. I'll just bring this hail because sun, all of that type of stuff gets dunked on by hail. But yeah, he ends up bringing like a something quite close to what I expected, where it's just sort of like a weird jank balance type thing, but with loads of breakers as well. So I don't know.
This was what you used versus Megazord in a.
Oh, he's used it an awful lot. Yeah.
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 The bear tech looked familiar.
Yeah. The whole point behind me having a hail team and then using it is basically to keep people on their toes from just bringing like six CB mons versus me, for example. Like, I think it was one exhibition. Like, was it exhibition one where I was teaming with Sam? It was back in Pyro meta when Sam was like Kingler Pyro King, right? And I played a test game versus him, and I brought something similar, like something analogous to my Kanker spikes, right? And then Sam completely annihilated me. Like it wasn't even close. But he brought basically six CB mons with no defensive synergy whatsoever. And I'm like, how the fuck did you just beat me with that team? And he was just like, I don't know, dude. I'm just clicking buttons. But it sort of like ticked over in my brain where it was like, oh shit, I need to be careful of people trying to bring like 10 breakers versus me because that works. Like it will work if you get the matchup right. So for me, it was like, okay, how can I build into my teams like anti-offense features, which is why you see me use a lot of Jellison and Scarf Mons and also like different styles of teams. Like Hail is just generally anti-offense because of how powerful the Hail sweepers are under Hail. So yeah, just keeping people on their toes for those types of teams.
Yeah, okay. So I've got to the turn I wanted to get to, turn 25. Skipcan has a pretty much 100% win here. Beartick outspeeds Lycanroc under Hail. Lycanroc will kill with Aqua Jet. Lycanroc will kill with Accelerock. Hajad pretty much needs to Aqua Jet. If Skipcan just goes to Crabominable, Aqua Jet is not yet. It's at 74%. Aqua Jet won't kill, and then Beartick will kill it with Superpower. Then Hail runs out, and Lycanroc is faster. After the Superpower, with the defense drop and 2 Life Orb hits, Crab Lycanroc's Accelerock will kill Beartic. Beartic will be at 51. Accelerock does 55 minimum. Even if Hajad goes crazy and predicts the Crabominable switch and superpowers and still has one more turn of Hail, now even after the Stealth Rock, because of the attack drops from superpower, his Aqua Jet will not kill Lycanroc.
Oh, and then
What
he'll
happens
run
if
down
I-
enemies. Okay, yeah.
What happens if I was to Aqua Jet into Icicle Crash? Because Icicle Crash does a lot of damage as well.
Hail is gonna run out, and you're gonna be in range of Accelerock.
Okay.
Because you'll be
So,
at
yeah,
you'll be at
basically-
51 after 2 Life Orb hits. You'll be in range of Accelerock. The only thing I could find is like, what if you immediately kill the crab with superpower, and then he goes back to Lycanroc, and then like you're still faster, so he kind of has to Accelerock, and I think that might have been a roll there. But even then, like that's something Skip can still would much rather risk, obviously, because instead
Yeah.
he sacks Lycanroc to the jet, and then Beartic goes down, and then Crabominable goes down because it's slower, and Hajad just wins the game. And yeah, I think going Crab was definitely the better play. I didn't do a full analysis that I probably should have. Like I didn't painstakingly point out here's all the rolls, here's every possibility of what they could have done. But I think it's pretty clear going Crab is absolutely the better play, and this was like a really big drop where Skip can definitely might have had this game 3.
He might
Yeah,
have
I think he
just. Sorry. He might have just because I didn't even think about that. I didn't even know that like all of that was there. He might have just thought, "Oh, I guess I have to go off of him not having the jet at all."
Yeah. I
Rather
think,
than
yeah, that was the thing. He might have just completely blanked that Jet existed on Beartic, which is, I guess,
Yeah.
reasonable.
Maybe. I mean,
Reasonable.
the fact that you've used this team a lot and shown Jet a lot, and like that's unfortunate. But yeah, that might have been it, because otherwise, like if you know Jet's there and you see, oh, Hale's running out in 2 turns, going Crab seems like the very obvious play to me, to be honest. Like the first thing I thought of when I saw this was like, oh, he's gonna go Crab. That's gonna be like a question here. So I don't know what was going through his mind with any of this. Obviously, we can't know. But yeah, I do think that's worth pointing out, is like this was a very big dropping the ball here.
yeah, and
It's
he
unfortunate.
knew it was life orb, so it's not like you had to lock into anything. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just a mental fuck up. Like, oh, it has jet. I didn't know.
Yeah, it was a weird game, and yeah, he'll be, I guess, kicking himself for that. But to be quite honest, halfway through that game, I was already, as I said, mentally preparing for game 3. So it was like, oh, what am I going to bring for game 3? Oh, I won this game, sweet.
Doesn't matter.
Always a solid feeling.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna offer you guys a little bit of a choice. We can either like also go in depth on the 2 LTPL games we saved, or since that's gonna put us like over an hour on its own, and then we still wanted to get to like top players of the gen, we can do a little bit of a shorter like run through on them, and then just like make the top players of the gen thing our last big thing. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I guess we should do the faster one.
Yeah, let's just do shorter.
Yeah, okay. So the 2 we skipped, the 2 first one in chronological order. First is Finch versus Luthier. They both have like pretty fun momentum-based offense teams. Like, oh hey, I'm gonna volt my Lantern into the Absol. Oh, I'm gonna volt my Eel into the Simisear or Victory Bell. Like pretty, you get what they're going for, or Parting Shot or whatever. Not a ton of craziness there. Like neither of them are really steamrolled by anything the other has. It's just kind of where the offense matchup is going to go.
It just seems like Finch is getting more out of his Mons like each turn, and like Luthier seems to be in the back a bit. And in like these Absol Vic Simisear games where like things are happening each turn, you getting more value. Just
Yeah,
onesie the game.
I felt this game was always going to be, in my opinion, how much value Luthier could get out of his Lantern, because Lantern has a lot of pressure on it this game to check a lot of things, but also to gain offensive momentum. With the like Mudsdale not really being a resist to it, so
yeah, for sure. And I don't really like already on turn 7, he scalds trying to catch the Mudsdale instead of just volting out. I feel like there's definitely a few times where he maybe not exactly plays it too safe, but goes for predictions that weren't entirely on base. Like at that point, you definitely would have wanted to just take the momentum, even though you have like the victory bell counter. It's still not ideal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
And like Finch is like staying in on the Silvally poison.
He's forcing Roos on Pom Pom to get the Volt off with Eel.
Yeah, he had some other like solid play earlier. Like just he doubles into the lantern. He's just kind of getting more clear advantages from his Mons. Which is in a weird way because it's not like super setting up a win con. It's just more like killing things.
Yeah, and well, he did a good job saving the fairy for the Primate Ben game because he was going to struggle with Helmet Vic going down against Primate, especially with Mud's toxic.
Yeah, that Silvally fairy does not come out a lot. He even here spins and then gets crit by the Oricorio, which is like annoying, but he still just felt in a very, very solid position regardless, which is good for him. That's really where you want to be at. Where like that's not even that big of a problem. Then Simisear gets in a couple times and racks up more kills, and
Finn just kind of just done this the whole tour with like getting the most out of each turn and kind of not setting up like a huge win con, I'm gonna sweep you, but like you're not gonna kill me kind of thing. That's just what I mean, he's one of the best players on the site, so
yeah, that's what I was impressed about during the time when I was managing him during PUPL. Was just how like efficiently he played, which is something that you'll gain if you play a lot of Pokemon in general. And like he plays a lot of ladder games, not necessarily PU ladder, but like OU ladder games. He's also on the OU Council, I think. He's a fantastic player, fantastic talent, and that's the one thing that he'll always have over majority of PU players, that he plays so much and he knows how to win a game.
When I was playing him, it just felt so systematic. Like I felt like I was getting a lot out of the turns, and then when it came down to like the end game, like I fucked up, but still like I just looked and I'm like, whoa, he has like all of this, and I didn't even realize that he was like setting up for this. It was impressive.
Yeah, and there's definitely more to go over in like the individual interactions here. I wanted to do a little bit faster, but this is definitely a game I think people could have fun with, just like going over on their own and like seeing what both of these players were doing.
Yeah, it's a great example of offense.
Off the tour player side, the other one we skipped over was Rexus versus Ziri. Ziri's got a little bit more on the funky side. I believe it's a Specs Drampa, which we haven't seen a ton of recently, and also like the offensive Simipour. Rexus has.
This is the same team that Skip Camp brought versus me as well in the game one.
Yeah, they're
yeah.
Like friends.
Yeah. It was. Although, is the order of the Mons reversed?
I think Simi.
How do I switch? Switch like sides.
I think Simi was in the 5th. The other one, or the 2nd.
Yeah, the order of the Mons is different. Okay, sure. Anyway, he got that. Rexus has a Spikes Misharna team with the skunk. That's cool. I like this stuff. But the big notable thing is, oh look, Rexus doesn't have a normal resist. I wonder if that's gonna be a problem. Like it's not even like most of the time it's no normal resist. Like oh shit, Stoutland. It was really funny to see Drampa in this case because Hyper Voice was actually doing more work than Draco Meteor, which you don't really expect or see a lot.
Yeah, I think that was a big discussion. I can't remember where it was exactly, but I think people were saying that Hyper Voice should be dropped on Drampa, like as I think it was in the analysis, or in the analysis that Hyper Voice should be dropped, and I'm like, the reason why Guzzlord got banned in the first place was because of Dark Pulse and like having the dual stab where you can alternate between Draco and Dark Pulse for like ultimate neutral coverage. I feel like Drampa is in a similar thing where if you want to utilize it to its like maximum, you need to be using both Hyper Voice and Draco, depending on the scenario.
Yeah, I mean, Hyper Voice, I think you can drop on fatter sets, not specs. Like, AV can probably get away with, like, Spadef or whatever, of course, but Yeah, like here we see turn 3. He outspeeds and hyper voices the Torterra for 75. That's a big yikes. Turns out he also could have Dracoed, but like he assumed the Silvally was fairy instead of dragon, which yeah, fair enough here.
Yeah. I think Rexus's normal resist. I guess he was hoping that he could get away with like the T-Wave Quill, and like Musharna Tort kind of thing to get around Stout and Kanga. But
nothing.
Yeah, he didn't really.
Nothing on its own is really weak to the normals. There's not like a Roselia or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like at most the normal is going to get 1 kill and then get traded out. So I wasn't overly like, especially if it's like Kangaskhan. Like if it's a Stoutland, sure it's going to get 1 kill or 2 kills and then get traded out. If it's a Kangaskhan, you just wall it with Torterra anyway. So it's like, I'm sure he wasn't really that fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just Drampa just kind of clicks.
Yeah. Anyway, so he does get up his 3 spikes for sacking the Quillfish and gets to take out the Simipour with it too because T-Wave. So Quillfish like still does put in a lot of work. It's a cool mon that we haven't seen a ton of. Like it feels weird to highlight Quillfish, but we really have not seen a lot of it. And like he gets to basically trade getting spikes off for the Silvally Fairy being pretty dead, which is cool, but Silvally Fairy doesn't check a lot of his stuff. It feels like his late game is really hard because the mons that he gets to wear down with like the Quillfish, like he removes the Silvally Fairy, he moves the Simipour, but those aren't really the big issues, you know? And then come late game, he just ends up kind of struggling to get anywhere.
Yeah, I would feel like I'd be much more comfortable. Like if you were to go, I don't know which turn you're on, but like turn 18, for example.
I'm on turn 22 right now.
All right, so I would have been way more comfortable in that position if the Musharna was like a Trick Room set where you could sort of like initiate the game super quick. It might have ended up being that set actually. I don't think he revealed if it was.
We've seen Psyshock Gleam. The problem is like as soon as he gets a kill with the mission, let me see. It was Twinkle Tackle, so maybe, but maybe not. The problem is really like Misharn is the thing that has to do the breaking, but also like the late game ape check. So yeah.
I personally think if it was, I think Trick Room would have been more like useful on this team, given that it's like spikes plus Rotom Frost. But yeah, he could have definitely won this end game if it ended up being that set. But you know, didn't end up happening.
Or even like a fat CM set, but this is almost certainly not CM. So I'm thinking Future Sight with spikes is probably what he was going for here. Like Future Sight, he's got a Pursuiter, he's got the spikes. Because like if he was Trick Room, he probably would have pulled that out, and if he was Calm Mind, he definitely wouldn't have played it the way he did. So
yeah,
yeah, pretty good game, honestly.
Yeah, okay, interesting stuff. And the last kind of topic we wanted to run into, this is kind of something that we've been hitting a lot in the PU Discord, just like looking back on the gen now that it's almost over. We've got PU Alpha coming in 2 months. We've got our last tournaments in LTPL and Circuit Finals finishing up. When I say last tournaments, of course, we've still got Classic and stuff, but like our last big current gen tournaments. So we have this Discord log that I better actually change what we can view here. So let me do some quick editing of the window. Yeah, okay. So I've got the right window up to actually start looking at this list. This is just what Jerry posted. Other people have done their list. This is just the one from 20 minutes before we started recording. So this is fun to go off, and I think not a bad list. We'll definitely go over like the flaws where it's different. He kind of made this going back through all the team tournaments and like circuit and stuff like that, and looking at team tour wins and then who actually won circuit tournaments and going from there. There's definitely some downsides. He didn't really go over like if you got third in the seasonal, he didn't really take that into account. Some of the weighting on points definitely might be different. And then he said the last like 8 through 12 were all pretty tied for points. But I do think this is at least a decent start to talk about who we had the best players of the gen being,
H, what do you think of this list?
My personal opinion is that any list that doesn't have Dibs at number 1 is fraudulent. So I would say this list is fraudulent as well.
Maybe
but yeah, no. But being serious for a sec, like if you're going to put people like I think TJ mentioned like Eurusius, Tlenet, basically players that played a fair amount but also built a fair amount. If you're going to put them in like the bracket of like top 1 to 20, you have to start including like other people like Dibs as well, because even though Dibs isn't as outspoken as Tlenet and Eurusius and all of them, he contributed to most of the teams, basically all of the teams during PUPL, and obviously at the start of the meta he was very involved with the whole Charizard thing. He was a council member, and yeah, he was like a pioneering.
He had a much longer tenure in PU too, being around for like the whole start of the gen, as opposed to kind of this end of the gen stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good shout for Dibs, but this list is not about. This is not about the builders. This is about the players.
Yeah. Jari's list is much more encompassing about the players. That was just more of a general point, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the top 2 slots we can agree are pretty fair. You had like the very dominant PUPL and also just like everything else, you know, picking up the last seasonal, a couple circuit playoffs, possibly winning this circuit as well. This is pre Hajad versus Rexus for circuit finals. I don't know that would change. Like, obviously, if you win circuit, that doesn't change anything. If Rexus wins, I'd probably move him above Katut, but that's about it. But yeah, I think we can start with you and Teddy being the top 2 as being pretty reasonable.
Yeah, if we're going like super recently, I'd keep it. But like overall, I'd still say Teddy's stronger than H-Shed. I don't even know if you would argue that.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, okay. To be clear, this is built off like a strict results thing, at least for the top, where Hajad had more like points off of Jerry's system, and yeah, that's fair. I think if Hajad wins circuit, you can probably make a good. Like he's definitely got like the results above. Obviously, again, you can get a lot more subjective with this, and at that point, you can swap a ton of things around. Like I don't even think you, Hajad, would say that you're like the better player than Teddy, clearly. So like, that's a solid call to make there.
I would say, the difference is that a lot of these lists, like, I'm not going to go too in depth with it, but like, for example, it doesn't include my support for False during Snake, and that was widely considered to be like the best at the time. Or, you know, there was, I guess, there was more like people who started to like say, oh, this is like what I'm doing with the builder or whatever. So people started to take notice for that. But, you know, obviously you can't really involve that type of stuff in a metric. You can't really say, oh, well, False's record should be included in this analysis. Yeah, it's not really that fair, but
you can include that.
You can include those types of things if you're taking a more like holistic team builder plus player approach, rather than just like, oh, this guy's the better player, and playing wise, this is what. Yeah, if it was based on playing, which it mostly is, basically. Is what I'm trying to say,
basically what we want to say. Basically, what we want to say. Take everything with a massive grain of salt. This is obviously all super subjective. Any ranking list, like no one is saying Jerry's list is perfect or anything, but once you keep in mind that this is all supposed to be taken with a massive grain of salt, we're not going to spend. We don't need to keep spending all the time going. Don't want to offend anyone. Keep in mind, etc., etc. Like just hear it out now, and then let's move on to the actual, talking about it. Does that seem reasonable?
Overall, though, I think overall Teddy's been the best player, just like the best player, like in terms of how he plays the game. And I think people, if you've watched him, like he's amongst like the top players on Smogon, in my opinion. So I don't think that's too like.
I don't.
It's just a question of how bothered he is to turn up on the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't disagree, and it's also, again, this list did not take into account like second and down for seasonal, just like the winners of each tournament. And I do believe Teddy has a lot more like third, second, fifth, etc. placings than you. I think that might also definitely skew it a bit.
Yeah.
Then you have Katut, who obviously had his really dominant like series of 5 or 6 tours in a row in like one chunk of PU, including the ribbon, the big ribbon circuit, and his exhibition run, and then kind of just dipped and has not hit anywhere near the same peak since like coming back and playing in LTPL and stuff. But
Yeah, you could probably make
inarguably
a
like
solid argument.
super dominant there.
You could make a solid argument for Katut to be number one after the circuit win, but since then, I felt like he sort of fell off in terms of just the consistency in how he played. Like there was a bit less consistency there. I feel like that's why he's third now, as opposed to arguably number one back in the day.
Yeah, it's just a whole mental thing, I think. After, which sucks because you don't want them to be all like tilted, but it happened. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if I were to list them like non-objectively by numbers, I wouldn't put him number 3. But he was dominant at one point, and I guess he got enough points.
Yeah, like this is very much built on like that one chunk of PU that has not really come back. So it like how do you rank something like that? It's hard.
Yeah.
And then you have Rexus, which I also think Rexus is in kind of a weird spot because he's been really good every time he comes around, but he comes around only every so often. Including right now, he's really showing up. Strong LTPL, strong P. Like he's a PU circuit finalist right now. But before then, but before this period, he was around for PUPL, he was around for PU Ladder Tour, but he's kind of just dipped in and out. But it's hard to argue that every time he's come down, he's been really dominant and put a lot more into PU than like I don't know, like the standard kind of tour player idea that you think of. It's not like he just dips in, and isn't really a part of PU. I think he's done a lot more for PU. So,
yeah, I rate Rexus hard.
Yeah, I feel like with these players, it's also important to analyze that there's very little data that suggests that they have ever done bad in PU ever. It's like the same with Soulgazer. Like, if I was to rank in my personal list, I would put Soulgazer in and amongst the top 10, even though he's only played like one tour, because there is no evidence to suggest that he would have ever played badly, ever. Like, obviously the sample size isn't that huge. With Rexus, it's much larger, because he's played in so many tours, but yeah, Rexus has been consistently putting up numbers in every tour that he's played. And I feel like that's an important factor when you're ranking a player, because you might get a player who does really well in some certain tours. I feel like you can use Lockjaw and Skip Cannon as an example, where they have loads of results. Like there's no arguing that they have had some impressive results over the time, but they've also had some really shitty results. So that has to almost balance out like how much you consider that player as a top contender.
Yeah, I agree. Ziri, I think, also kind of falls into that basket where he's had some like really strong, the 7-2 snake, double circuit playoffs, solid stuff. But he's also had some poor showings, not just in like the PUPL listed here, but in general. I do think a really big up for Ziri though is like he's been really good this year, and last year was kind of like his new year where he wasn't as amazing. But he still managed to pull circuit playoffs that year. Like he still managed to kind of finagle it, despite kind of being where like not on the level that he is now. And I think that's a really big push for his results here. Is that even in his like new not as great successful year, still finagling that circuit playoffs. I think.
Yeah.
Like really pushes Ziri.
He's good. Yeah, he's very good at winning games, and I feel like. There's certain players they'll play better or acclimatize better to playing in big matches. I feel like Ziri is very good at. He was very good at playing like the lower tier players, and then over time he's also developed the ability to play your top level players as well.
Yeah.
He's very good.
Yeah, I was gonna say that like he's improved a ton just because like I watch a lot of his games, and he was like winning against the lower tier people. But he would also get into good positions and then choke, and he's really like improved his end games.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, I rate him.
And like that didn't really come in until that recently, to be honest. Like pre-Snake, we were saying, yeah, Zeri's more of like the gatekeeper who struggles there, and Snake was really his his biggest first kind of push for that to really consistently be like, no, he can definitely be top 10. He'd make it on results regardless, but that's like his big pickup recently, I think.
Yeah, I feel like his Snake and LTPL has been really good, so he definitely deserves to be in and amongst at least the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Telenet as well for helping him get into like the tier more.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Next is Tasker, which honestly surprised me because he's always been the guy who's like, everyone knows Tasker's really good, and he's had a couple big terms, like the PUPL 3 was his big breakout, but his results have never been that like super crazy. Honestly, like this year especially, he did not do very much at all, despite playing in a lot of things. And I think a lot of the 6 actually comes from the time before that, the PPL 3, the 2018 circuit, that kind of stuff. Because, well, like, yeah, Tasker, he's really good. He knows what he's doing. He knows the meta. He's a strong player. He's the PUBKC. And then I actually look at, like, the circuit spreadsheet, and he was not even, like, all that close to qualifying this year at all.
Yeah, I feel like Tasker has become, he was at one point extremely like overrated, I'd like to say. I wouldn't say extremely overrated, I would just say a little bit overrated.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody suddenly thought that he was like the deity of PU, where he was like the best player, he was untouchable, right? And then he never got any, he was almost like treated like that, like, so he never got any support, he never got any like team building help since after PUPL 3. Like after that tour, I don't think he's ever once had a team tour where he wasn't the main guy, like the main PU builder, main PU player. So he's had a lot of like stuff on his back, and because of that, I feel like his results have suffered.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think
he hasn't gotten a lot of support in tours at all.
And I think now, because he hasn't had a lot of support, people are now starting to really underrate his past accomplishments and generally his like all-around skill level. Because a lot of his records, he's also gotten really unlucky in certain games. We all know which games that I'm about to say, but I mean, like
yeah, okay.
It's just, I feel like, yeah, he's now gotten to this point now where he's severely underrated. I just hope that people put their like, now that people are sort of starting to say that like, oh, Tasker isn't that great, that they'd stop bidding for him in auctions so that I can buy him, so that I can give him a good record again. That's all I want.
Okay, fair enough. 7th, Jerry put Finch, which is really hard. Obviously, he feels like a bit of an odd person out here, and the specific way that Jerry calculated, where he gave team tours a lot of weight compared to like getting second in a seasonal is nothing, but a win in a team tour is a win in a team tour. That definitely boosts Finch up to here. That being said, like he had his 6-0 PUPL, he did well in other PUPLs. He did 5-2 in LTPL. I'm not sure if that was all PU. Like he's a strong player, obviously. Putting him up here is kind of weird. Like
Yeah,
it's a product of the method, is what I mean.
Yeah, I feel like basically we know Finch doesn't invest that much time in PU, like in comparison to other tiers.
Mm-hmm.
He probably still invests more time in PU than a lot of PU players would expect. Considering that he's not really a mainer, but he still plays a shit ton of Pokemon in general. But yeah, I think it's a good example of where PU is relative to like the OU token. I feel like it's a fair reflection based on the fact that like Finch is a very, very, very good player, and if he was to invest time in PU, I have no doubt that he would become like top 2 material. The question is just like he's obviously not going to put effort more in PU when he can and do so the exact same in OU. So yeah, I think I guess it's like a benchmark. Like this is where the OU community is at when they spend a couple minutes a year playing PU.
Yeah, and it's a good, it's good to see. It's a good representation to have, but I don't think most people's lists would really actually put Finch up there. it's a good shout, but not.
Yeah, not.
I
not
wouldn't.
for the
I wouldn't
highest
really be
2 or
placing
3.
him in my top 10 list.
Yeah,
I honestly would be, but that's because, as I said, I have a massive boner for people who do well and just leave. So it's like I would put SG, Tricking, Finch, all in that same
Yeah,
bracket.
I mean,
where they're
yeah.
just
The,
like
the next two
mid.
people we're gonna get to are Star and Tricking, who are pretty similar. With Star winning
Yeah.
winning PU Open, nothing else really. Tricking a really good 10-2 record in 2 PUPLs, but that's about it.
Yeah, dude, I would say the best performance in PU history in terms of like a game which he should not have won, and the scenario and the
The
level
Tricking
of the
Rob
game of that was
Jr.
the Tricking Rob Jr. PPL final
Yeah.
playoffs. That was the most crazy thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, you should have seen the Discord when Tricking was playing. It was like, oh, we've lost. Oh, we've got a chance again. And then, oh, we've lost. We've definitely lost. And then, what happens? We've won again. Oh, and we've lost. And, oh, we've won. Shit, what the hell? It was like, it's that was probably the greatest performance I've ever seen in SMPU at least.
Yeah.
Or the most memorable, obviously, for me, because I was the manager of that team. But yeah, I would say when you have that type of skill ceiling, it would be almost rude not to put him in the top 10.
I agree. And Star's in a similar case, like winning Open, really fucking big deal. Winning it over Teddy also in finals too, like Teddy trying. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like when you catch Teddy in form, it's very difficult to beat, and then Star was one of the few people who could actually beat him. So
yeah,
hats off to him.
I rate Star's accomplishments a bit more than Tricking, but like I can see why you would like because it's your team obviously for PPL.
Yeah, obviously I have a bit biased there.
That performance was insane. I agree. Like that game was crazy.
Not to mention, dude, Tricking the entire tour was bringing memes. Like the entire tour he was bringing like Butterfree and slacking and all that type of stuff, right?
Mhm.
So and he didn't lose. Like it was really like uneasy for me to watch. Like this guy's just bringing memes and winning. Like what am I gonna do? Tell him to stop?
no, it's hard to manage that.
Yeah.
The final slot here, definitely where it gets like controversial and awkward. Jerry chose me. There were a lot of other ties with like LST being right there. TJ, I think Kushalos. Not really sure who else. This is hard and there's a lot of subjectivity to it. I think I probably finagle it into a reasonable top 10 between like the double circuit playoffs and generally like decent placings across things aside from like the big time off I took at the start of this year between like our what was it, first seasonal into ladder tour into open. I kind of didn't really do very much and wasn't pushing a lot. Like that I'd kind of rate myself, but obviously TJ, LST, Kush, I really do feel like there was someone else, but I'm too lazy to check. Are
Soul
definitely
Gazer? Well, I don't think.
yeah. Okay, Soul
Soul
Gazer also. That was it.
Yeah, I would personally, because I have a black, white, NU boner. I would
Obviously,
put
yeah, Soul
in the
Gazer.
top 10.
Like, and I would never say I'm the better player than Soul Gazer. Better records, yeah, because I've played a lot of PU. He played literally one tour, but like, yeah.
Yeah. Where does False come? False has got to do well then as well because he had a very similar record to Soul Gazer, so
He
maybe
said-
that's not the best metric to do.
No, he said False was not. False, I don't believe, was on his radar for like the top 15 or so.
Yeah, so it probably wasn't Soul Gazer then because otherwise False would be on the radar then, wouldn't it? So yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah,
I
or
think
maybe he
there's-
just missed False because this was still pretty ad hoc. I don't know.
Yeah, the gap between like the top 15 and like the number or the 10 to 15 slot is like really small. Like I don't even think I can make many cases for each one.
I'd say the difference between top 10 to 15 is very small, but the difference between 15 to 20 is huge. Does that make sense?
I agree, and I also do think there's
Yeah.
there's a big cutoff between like our top 5 here, and then like going from Ziri down. Obviously, in terms of how good they are, you can definitely make a case of like Tasker, Finch, Star, etc. But like results wise, Ziri is kind of like a big cutoff here.
Yeah, from Zero to Tasker, I think there's not a gigantic gap, but a big enough one to mention.
And then from Tasker to Finch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, these are most of the names I really wanted to hit. Obviously, if you're not on this, like a lot of our strongest people right now are really new. PU has changed a lot. Um, and you've got people like Skipcan and Tlenet and Squash and Lockjaw and Erusius. Well, Lockjaw's actually been around for forever. But keep in mind, again, even if you don't feel like you're super new, I'm thinking back from like fucking XYPU terms. It's like there's a lot of really
dude,
new
I've been involved
people coming in.
with
So
PU since the days of Black White PU when Superior and Samurott were allowed. Like I remember the time in that like period where Aladdin was like a Black White NU player. He's still around on PS nowadays, but I was talking to him and he said, "Oh, yo, dude, try Black White PU," and I'm like, "Dude, I don't like Black White NU. Why would I like Black White PU?" And then I played it a little bit and sort of fell off, and then I came back a lot during XY. But still, to be around the community back then, see how small it was, and now how much it's developed since then, it's quite humbling, I guess, to see like, oh, your names or like the names of loads of PU mains are around, like Finchinator, Tricking, who are established tour players.
It's
So,
just
yeah, it's
wacky
quite cool.
to see like big PU community members or top players or whatever who like have not played at a time when I was not tier leader. That's wild to me.
That is really crazy, honestly.
Yeah, dude. Back to that time, I think it was Dell who was the tier leader. Like Dell's.
Yeah, it was Dell and Whited Mist.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Even this makes me feel old, and I'm not even like that old in the community.
Yeah, no. So
Specs
anyway,
made me feel
point was,
Specs
if you're not on here, really not. Don't worry about it. Obviously, in 2020, there's not going to be a whole PU circuit to put yourself out there, but there's still going to be PUPL. There's still going to be a PU Open in Slam. We're still going to have like kickoff tournaments and stuff like that. Maybe PU World Cup. Dunno. This would be the year to throw it in, and we don't have like a circuit for it to get in the way of. And then come 2021, we'll be running a whole circuit. If I'm still around then, God, I graduate in 2021 from college. Like, holy shit.
Same.
Jesus
I
Christ.
just want to say how Specs has made me feel so old by saying that he's old because you put in the PU disc.
That's true, though. Oh my.
Because Dibs always refers to me as like the 12th in the community, and I don't know.
It's like you just exposed me in the PU. Well, you exposed me yesterday in the PU Discord with my
the RMT.
Artbox Live Pod RMT. Like, dude, that was 6 years ago. I can't believe that's my only RMT as well. That's the only, I don't even have something more recent to say. Oh, look, I'm a better player now.
Yeah, but
I might
honestly,
do
like
something after. Yeah.
Like shout out to all the new PU people who came around like this gen. Like I don't know, it has been cool seeing them kind of on the rise and like have their quick moment start to get into tours.
Yeah, it's important as well. I like an active community as opposed to like a dead community. Even if it's a bit toxic, I don't really give a shit. Like if there's a little bit of toxicity, but as long as people are talking and having fun, that's all I really care about. So
hell yeah.
Go PU. Yeah.
Anyway, that was really nice and heartwarming, but you know what, we need to kind of bring this back down to like the filth level again. We need a gimmick corner.
Yeah, we do. Specs, do you have anything?
You don't have to. We just always offer guests if they want to.
How about you go first, H-Head? I'll just go into my builder right now.
No, I insist that you go first.
Okay, let me load it
Okay.
I made Choppleberry Sudowoodo for Secret Santa. You were like Stoutland Primate, something else.
Sure. I mean, for a given value of not being Golem or Aggron, like, I guess.
Yeah, it in tests, it honestly won me a lot of games. It doesn't even balance break that bad.
That's
of course, you get to have Sudowoodo, and I'm stuck with fucking Chimecho.
Yeah, somebody else.
It is Chimecho is legit the worst mon I've used this entire gen. No,
you're not even the only person
full
who
stop.
got it.
Yeah, well, also with Sudowoodo, you get the nice head smash plus wood hammer combo. That's like,
you hit Mudsdale harder than like Aggron, I think, which is cool.
Really, Aggron's got Aqua Tail though, and like bigger attack. Actually, it might not
Okay,
have
the
bigger
CB
attack.
the CB set hits harder with Woodhammer.
Yeah, I had a Sudowoodo.
Sudowoodo is, I think, base 90 attack, I want to say. I'm looking this shit
100.
up. It's base 100?
Yeah, and then 120 power over like
Yeah, over Aggron's like 90 base power Aquatail, but hang on. Aggron's stats. Aggron's attack, I want to say it's like 110. Yeah, it's 110. Okay.
Yeah, so the numbers just kind of work out.
I love numbers. Okay, Jad, what you got?
Yeah, you go now.
So, I don't really have anything, but I will say the thing that I've been like the most on edge of using is the Trick Room Life Orb Duosion thing. That's been crazy.
No, I hate that thing.
I mean, it's not weak. It's stronger than Misharna. It's not killing itself, so...
Isn't it stronger than Kadabra, too?
Is Duosion stronger than Kadabra? I wouldn't be that surprised, because Reuniqueless is really strong.
Yeah, the only things in PU that have more special attack than it are Executor, Glaceon, and Drampa.
Yeah, that really doesn't surprise me all that much. Duosion is
125.
125, yeah, and Kadabra's like 90, I think.
You almost hit 400 on the stat with Modest. That's insane.
Yeah,
and then you
buddy.
have Life Orb on top of that, like.
People say PU is weak. We got our fucking fetus. Let's go.
Oh, can I also slip in Flame Charge, Nasty Plot, Simisear?
That's my set, you thief.
No,
No, I know. No, Kadabra's 120 special attack?
Yeah.
I didn't even oh my god. No wonder I wanted to use
strong.
Life Orb so much.
But yeah, a lot of teams are defaulting to Primeape to revenge Simisear because that mon is crazy good right now.
Oh, yeah.
You can get around it, kind of like the whole Houndoom.
Yeah, I think I gave it a shout in our gimmick corner when I beat Lockjaw with it week 1 of LTPL.
Oh.
Shout out to me.
Yeah, okay, you can have that one.
Okay, next week is semis of LTPL, so there will only be 4 PU games, and then we've got Hajad versus Rexus to go over for circuit finals. How exciting! I've been Megazard. This is the first Untier talk of 2020. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just like naming random things. I'm on a computer. Hajad's British. We'll see y'all next time.